Welcome back, Red Spotters. Another show here on the Red Spotlight Podcast. I'm your host today, Alexis J. Soto, joined by Mr. Peter Martinez. And we're actually going to be providing to you some actual news on this show for the first time in seemingly over a month. We have updates on new release dates of films, new projects being announced, as well as how current streaming shows and movies are performing on their platforms. And toward the end of the show, we have a movie review on Boys State, which is currently streaming on Apple TV Plus, produced by the much beloved A24 studio. All that more here on Red Spotlight number 296. Peter, how are things with you over there on this pandemic week, whatever we're on?
It's fine. It's been okay. It's been good. I'm alive.
You been watching anything?
Watching anything? Not really. I've still been watching a lot of Bob's Burgers. Watching anything? No, you go first. I can't think of anything.
Well, because I am doing several simultaneous recaps with the two Morenos. I'm doing WandaVision with David, and I'm doing...
that.
That, right. The Crown with Alexis, and I just revisited season 4 of The Crown, and it is so good. It is so good.
I watched something actually good. It's called Bad Taste. It was, I believe, Peter Jackson's first film. It's very low budget. Very first time filmmaker, shoot from the hip kind of film. It's about this town gets invaded and aliens start eating everyone. It's like they're gonna harvest humans for their fast food alien restaurant, and then like they send in an agency to like take care of the aliens, like a group of people, of guys, and it's gross, and yeah. I did see that. I'm trying to think about it. Yeah. So you saw The Crown.
Mm-hmm.
How many presidents has she lived to see now? Including Biden?
Well, she's currently 94, right?
Mm-hmm.
So she ascended to the throne at 25 years old. I want to say it was 1952, right? Or 1950, one of those two. I forget which year exactly. I think Eisenhower was her first president. I want to say it's Eisenhower, or it could have been Truman. Actually, no. In fact, it may have been Harry Truman.
Meeting presidents is just like nothing to her now. It's like, oh, it's another one. Okay, bring them in.
No, they're really interesting figures, and the show does a lot of really interesting character exploration for obviously the TV show counterparts. And the performances, of course, are really great. Olivia Colman is fantastic. Some other great actors in there as well, like Helena Bonham Carter, Tobias Menzies, and yeah, this latest season. I actually wrote some notes down because I don't know if you are aware, but like the show also does a lot of it's not just like capturing all the dramatic incidents that happen with the royal family, but it actually really does a lot of great commentary on the politics of the country, and they do give significant roles to the prime ministers and their political persuasion and what's going on. And this fourth season was in the 80s, and this was the era of Margaret Thatcher. And for both you and I, yeah. So both you and I are very attuned with, American politics, and we know that name because many conservatives really throw her in with the era of Ronald Reagan. Of course, they both kind of happened simultaneously. And that 11-year reign, she was prime minister for 11 years. Can you believe that in Great Britain?
And now she's dead.
Yeah, now she's dead.
So things do improve sometimes.
Man, her policies wreaked such havoc, as you would expect conservative policies to do so. And the show is relentless in exposing just how completely nihilistic she was and misguided. And I wrote down some really interesting lines of dialogue that they gave her that I feel perfectly sum up conservatism, where she pretty much just dismissed all, I think she said that we have to abandon these old-fashioned notions of the collective good or collective duty. She literally said we have to look out for number one, and if then, only if they choose, can they care about anybody else.
Yeah, I don't... For whatever reason, conservatism itself seems to always lead down this death cult mentality, every time. For whatever reason, I don't know why. 99% of the time, you look at any political battle, you have one, and it's left versus right. The left side is usually hey, let's help in some way, and the right is no. And that's kind of it in a nutshell. That's all fucking modern politics.
That's literally what's going on in this country right now.
It's been going on.
The leftist.
Speaking of Thatcher, since Reagan, especially, yeah.
Yes, well, it's been going on. But in terms to what's going on today in February,
because the Democrats again don't love them, but guess what? They're trying to pass a pretty good stimulus, bill to try and get the economy kickstarted.
$1 trillion stimulus.
1.9, not quite 2. I don't know why they couldn't just go for the full 2, but whatever. Following, COVID and all that, and the Republican counteroffer is just that, but significantly less. And it's
$600 billion at last I checked.
Yeah, and that's usually how it is. That's it in a nutshell. But no, fuck Thatcher.
Now we've been having, Alexis and I have been having in our recaps really interesting conversations about they're so different over there. How they're structured as a country. Mm-hmm. This the show is a study of this constitutional monarchy, how things are done. Also, in terms of how the royal family are, in terms of their culture and everything, their traditions, and of course the politics. I went on a rant, I think, in the last one when there was this horrible accident that happened. I mentioned this in episode 3 of the recap series. This tragic accident happened, and it was because of years and years of conservative policies not fixing certain equipment that had deteriorated. And of course, the accident happened during the one leftist administration. And what do the conservatives do?
Blame it on
them. They never
them.
take They blame it on the liberals.
Well, no, that's the way it's been for decades now in this country. Is conservatives will come in, they'll wreck the economy while getting them and themselves rich. They're voted out. Democrats come in. By the time they're able to clean it all up, the entire time the Democrats were in office, Republicans were pointing around and saying, "Look at how shitty it is." Even they're the ones that had made it shitty, and the Democrats were trying to clean it up. And by the time they clean it up, their messaging has worked, and they're back in office, and then they wreck it again. And it's just kind of been that yo-yo back and forth for as long as I've lived, for sure.
Before that, I think the real beginning of this,
for sure, as long as I've lived.
the real beginning of this cycle, I think, was ushered in under Ronald Reagan.
Oh, yeah.
That's when it really started. So there's your weekly dose of American politics. For those listening, I'm sure you were very enthused about the things that we said. So yeah.
I mean, if they're listening to us,
they should know by now and everything. So The Crown, Netflix. We're going to wrap up our recap series. And then, of course, I'm doing the recap series on WandaVision, which I'm sure a lot of people are, for many very different reasons, excited about. I'm doing that with Mr. David Francisco. We just actually recorded the review for episode 4. It's so much fun to talk about this show. It's been a while since, we've just had something exciting to talk about, that's actually also good, because usually,
it ain't
some of the
that.
stuff that it ain't that. Yeah. A avid listener, of our show by the name of Sergio Ramos. I believe you are aware, Mr. Martinez, of Sergio. He's a mutual friend of, Ms. Moreno. He was dropping some stuff off that Ms. Moreno was sending in our direction.
Oh.
Yes.
She finally sending that bomb.
Yeah, finally. That's where my thought went as well. And he was telling me that he really enjoyed our podcasts, in particular because our opinions seemingly are nowhere else to be found. He has a contrarian point of view in terms of how he feels about The Mandalorian, but he listened to our review anyway because they're just so wildly different.
We're right, you're wrong. I'm big, you're small.
Oh my God.
Oh.
But that's an example of a show that we weren't very kind to.
Oh no, we weren't. And I went back and I listened to it, and it's funny because I feel like we don't even start the podcast. Like we hit record and we just start venting. Like there wasn't like a beginning. Which I thought was funny.
Well, I was already upset because that day I was being plagued with connection issues, more so than usual. So I was not in the best of moods. I could not see your face the entirety of the recording, which in case, and Sergio also brought this up to my attention, that it may not even, I guess it was just obvious to us because we do the podcast, but we actually do see each other's faces, through a virtual setting. Mm-hmm. That's how we record. We're not talking to a disembodied voice. I feel like our attentions would be,
By the way,
really
have you fixed anything on your side? Because it is very smooth today, the connection.
Yes, I have.
Okay.
I've actually ordered a Wi-Fi extender router, and it's literally close to my room. Because the problem with my Wi-Fi connection is the wall. There's like several walls where the router actually is.
Because
and
it's a huge improvement. I gotta say.
Well, thank God. Thank God. I mean, don't jinx it, right? I'm sure there'll be some hiccups here and there, but
we lost
usually.
Him. No, I'm kidding.
Stop! Shut the fuck up! I knew you were. Shut up! You almost. My heart stopped for half a second. You idiots! Don't do that to me. But that's how traumatizing that day was. That what? Fuck it. I'll just order that damn thing because I've had enough of this. Yeah. So now, hopefully, we're doing okay. With the connection and everything.
Yeah.
And so, yeah,
definitely working.
Yeah. So a lot of news has happened in the last month. And the last couple of shows that you've been on, Peter, you've said, well, actually not. We've had to talk about a lot of reviews that we had not gotten to, including Mandalorian Season 2, as well as finishing off the Del Toro episodes, which honestly, I really enjoyed. It was really interesting conversations all around, and recommend all you to go back and listen to those. And I think it really, when we explore any particular filmmaker, like with Del Toro and Scorsese, it also really, I feel, kind of helps us fall in love with movies all over again and fall in love with film, and then also kind of give you, the listeners, an idea for why we're so obsessed with it and why we talk about it, all too often. And it was definitely needed in a time right now where it is such a barren wasteland. Honestly, I know we're really in the beginning of awards season, and the Golden Globe nominations start that off, I think, the day after this podcast is recorded. But I kind of don't even care at this point anymore. Like, most of the movies I've seen just have not caught my fancy in the way that they usually do. Even the ones that are supposed to be the best of last year.
Yeah, because usually there's always just a couple films. In some years, I think 2017, like, I loved a lot of films. Yeah. But there's always just a couple films where I adore, I don't know if I can even say one film this year reached that. And there were films released, I know not a lot, but there were films released. It's going to be a depressing top 10. We will do a top 10. I'm forcing that.
I mean, no, we always do, and we will. I guess I usually have a pretty good sense as to how what is left in terms of our collective group to view before we actually do a top 10. I don't anymore, because there are some awards movies that don't officially release until 2021, so they're not technically 2020 movies, and that kind of makes it even more complicated than usual.
Yeah. So, like, well, I know one's coming out soon, like Nomadland.
Yes. But hasn't that been around for a while now?
Yeah, it would be considered a 2020 film. But it's not getting dropped on streaming until, was it this month?
I think it has to be this month, right? Because if the award season is picking up, I'm sure that's supposed to be a front runner of sorts.
It's also tough because I'm already starting to look forward to 2021 films.
Yeah, that's it too, right? Like, I've personally have moved on from
emotionally
2020. I'm like, that horse has kind of left the wagon at this point.
Godzilla vs. Kong's coming out. I don't know what I'm gonna feel, and that's what gets me excited is BVS. I'll probably be.
You mean the Snyder Cut?
Yeah, the Snyder Cut. Yeah. Oh no, not BVS. Yeah, Snyder Cut.
Justice League. Yeah.
All I know is I'll be laughing the whole time, and I'll love it. Judas and the Black Messiah comes out the 14th, 13th.
That looks interesting.
It looks really good. It looks so good, and I really, I'm very excited to see that one. So yeah, there's already films that I'm like looking forward to. So it's kind of like, it's hard to be like, okay, here's 3 more films that I'm pretty sure I'm just not gonna care that much about. But I could be looking forward to these other films. I don't know.
Well, we're going to be, a lot of the stories, or the first couple of stories are going to deal with the usual specter that has been eluding us for the past year really, and that is the ultimate question of when movie theaters could come back, and this here, that there, and movies being pushed or moved to streaming, and people, of course, want to know that answer. But of course, they also want to know, like, what our latest thoughts are. Well, I can't necessarily do that without also providing an updated, an update on the coronavirus pandemic in America. And this won't take too long, but I believe that we have exceeded expectations in terms of what was projected for last month, which was January, and we've gone over 430,000 dead, right? Or have we already hit 450? I'll look it up right now just to be like 100% sure about what that number is, but like the number has gone up considerably.
200,000, I just kind of stopped. I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'll just do it for the sake of interest. I mean, we did it from the very beginning of the pandemic in terms of like, you know, how many people have unfortunately passed away from it. And, you know, just to, at the very least, just to give, I'm on my phone trying to find out. Okay. According to Google, it's 447,000.
Yeah, probably.
Or around there.
450 by the morning.
Mm-hmm. By the time this is at least released anyway.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
For you to listen on. So there's that. And the other thing is, and I think I mentioned this on Fantasy Fair, just to, you know, give people some hope, to give people some optimism, right? Their vaccines are a thing that wasn't around for most of 2020. In fact, for all of 2020. And they're being rolled out slowly as they are, but they're being rolled out as we speak. Last I saw that the president ordered 200 million more doses of the vaccines. And for the most part, I think we just crossed a milestone where we now have more people in the United States vaccinated that have COVID-19.
That's huge.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting that to happen anytime soon.
I think that's a real turning point. I think that's really good.
I agree. And the hope is that, and I don't want to throw this out there too much because, you know, all of the conspiracy theories of the herd immunity or whatever, but like if, with actual science to back it up, if enough people are vaccinated, that may start to have an effect on COVID-19 later on in the year.
Yeah. I mean, unless some of these variants that we're seeing pop up get genuinely like out of control.
And there's several already that have popped up. I've lost count how many variants there are. There's like a South African variant, a UK variant, a Brazilian variant, a California variant. It's like, damn.
We got our own variant?
Yeah, I think we do.
All right, go California. But no, as long as these variants don't get too crazy, I don't see this continuing in a big way into 2022.
Yeah.
I just don't. In a big way, I mean. Obviously, there's still going to be
masks. For sure. Social distancing, I think maybe.
There'll still be
mitigated
some level, but it won't be like now. So yeah, I think that's good. I think it is good.
No, yeah, and we should also mention, of course, that, and just to get your thoughts on this real quick, because, and this month, in fact, it may end up being approved by the FDA. Johnson & Johnson is unveiling their vaccine, and there was kind of a mixed bag with their vaccine in the sense that it was only 66% effective against the spread of infection compared to 95% for both Pfizer and Moderna. So not nearly good enough from that standpoint. But from what I read in the initial studies of it being perhaps 100% effective from killing you, or from when you catch COVID, it'll keep you alive, or it'll mitigate the symptoms to a degree where it could even also prevent hospitalization.
I mean, that's extremely positive if it can do that. My hope is that it wasn't just a case of, you know, they spent all this money and got kind of a shitty vaccine, so they try and throw that out there. Yeah. And it's not really what it seems it is, you know what I mean? But to try and still sell their vaccine somewhere, I don't know. But if it's genuine, like 100% of the people that take it can lower their symptoms to being a mild cold, I mean, obviously that's a plus, right? I'd say that's just as good as not getting it, or having a 95% chance of getting it.
Yeah, so look, we've got not everything's fixed. Not everything's going back to normal anytime soon, but like there are some really encouraging signs here to be a little bit optimistic about, a little bit more optimistic than certainly we were at any point last year. And of course, to also remind our listeners, it really helps that there's actually a president that gives a shit and at the very least is steering the ship to actually get the vaccines distributed. Because in case you thought in the last year that Peter and I were exaggerating, the Biden administration walked into power January 20th, I think, and they revealed the next day there were no distribution plans for a vaccine anywhere in the building by the previous occupant.
And I think they said they didn't have records. They didn't keep records of those that had been vaccinated.
No.
So it's just like... And yeah, I don't remember the specifics, but I remember him just dictating what at the time seemed like very basic things that you would do under this circumstance. I don't know.
He signed executive orders.
Yeah.
Yeah, he signed a number of executive orders, like mandating that everyone on an airplane wear a mask. And you think to yourself, why wasn't that already law?
Yeah, there were several things that he signed where I'm like, this is very
mask mandate.
Easy.
A mask mandate on federal buildings.
Why don't we do this? This is ridiculous. No. Voting matters, people. It really does. Now more than ever.
Yeah, so all of that is a preamble, obviously, to talk about how the movie industry will fare. Because while there is a very good chance, for Americans to get some COVID relief, courtesy of the new administration and the new Congress, there is still a lot really uncertain about where exactly the film industry is. You'd think that at this point in time, some representatives would be lobbying the new Congress for some aid for this particular industry. That's, or if not now, then in the next package for recovery, whenever they do this. Because I want to say it was a report from the Hollywood Reporter that suggested that some particular movie studios are holding out at the moment. They're waiting. They're taking a strategy of waiting and seeing the vaccines, how many are vaccinated, to see how much of an impact that has in the first few months of 2021. And then for them to make decisions about what to do with some of their releases. In particular, one of those is Paramount and Top Gun 2, which is one of their big movies this year. And they recently turned down an offer from Netflix to purchase the movie because they still want to take the theatrical avenue, if and when that can happen.
Yeah, well, especially from Paramount, this is like, they don't have many big films every year. I think this was their the big film for them. So you want to see if you can maximize as much money as you can out of that. And if you sell it straight to Netflix, it's going to be at I don't know, 200 million.
Right. I suppose Paramount could always just, if they're desperate, put it on Paramount Plus, which is they're rebranding from, I believe it was previously called CBS All Access, if I'm not mistaken. Now they're rebranding it to Paramount Plus.
Oh, that's the same thing? Okay.
I think it is.
Okay.
Yeah. I guess they could do that in an attempt to do what HBO Max is doing right now, but we'll see how much. I don't know how many people would subscribe to a service just to get Top Gun 2, but there are some numbers that could suggest perhaps that could be some people. But it's not just Paramount. Sony, in fact, pushed a lot of their movies far the hell away. I'm seeing here that Sony moved Morbius all the way to January 2022.
They really think that film's going to be a hit then. They want every movie theater open and people going, if that's how far they moved it.
Yeah, they also moved Peter Rabbit 2 The first movie was a hit for them. They also moved Ghostbusters Afterlife, and the Uncharted movie with Tom Holland is also, I think that one got moved also to 2022. Ghostbusters later in the year, I think.
The lucky thing for all those films, though, is they didn't really have a marketing blitz or anything. Campaign.
Yeah. You know what did, though?
Mm-hmm.
Paramount's A Quiet Place 2 had spent literally its entire marketing campaign. It was going to release that March of 2020.
That's
when
right.
all that thing happened, all the shit went down. And so it again has been moved from, it was moved to April 2021, but it was recently pushed to September 2021.
They're still keeping that one close, though, you see?
Yeah.
Because they can't afford to hold that one because they've already spent the money to market it. That's what I would
imagine they have to spend again to remind people that movie exists.
I think what people don't realize is it's not just how much you paid to make the movie, but it's how much you got to pay to promote it. To, you know, all the posters, all this, all that. That's a lot of money. Let's say you do that and then something happens and you got to move the date far away, so then you have to do that whole thing all over again. So with these other films that at most maybe had like a teaser trailer or even nothing at all, you can start from square one as far as moving them. You're still losing money because of the way, I don't know the exact specifics, but it's like it's business stuff. I hate business stuff. It's I don't know if it's like you borrow money or like shareholders, you say like, this is how successful we're going to be, and then if you have to push off the film, you're obviously losing money because of that. And maybe, you know, the shareholders, you know, it looks bad, you lose money, blah 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 blah. The whole point is, you know, moving a movie no matter what makes you lose money, and then double that, maybe even triple if you've already spent the budget on promoting it. So we're definitely going to see that one sooner rather than later, I think. A Quiet Place 2.
Yeah, I would assume as well. You know, I think that movie also had its premiere back in 2020. That's how close it was.
Really?
Either it had its premiere. I think there were at the very least screenings for the movie that critics were allowed to see. Some, not all, critics. And one of those other movies that, again, happened to been around that time and space where coronavirus hit, but if it hadn't, it would have already gotten its release. James Bond, the 25th film in the franchise, and No Time to Die. So this is the story, just to keep people, just to make sure that they're caught up here. So this movie was supposed to come out in April, if I'm not mistaken, April the 5th, 2020. Then it was moved to November 2020. Then it was moved to April of 2021, which at that point meant that it had been delayed by an entire calendar year. Now, MGM has moved James Bond to October of 2021. And remember that we had discussed previously, they attempted to dangle that movie in front of some streamers to see if they would haul out $600 million, but that didn't work out, clearly, because it was too much money from their perspective. But MGM, that's all they have. They're on some hard times here. Like there's even been rumors that they've been looking for somebody to buy them out because they're not really holding their weight any longer in this space.
It's not going to be long till Disney owns every film.
And speaking of Disney, they've also made announcements for some of their movies. So The King's Man, remember that movie? It was supposed to be the third movie in the Kingsman franchise by Matthew Vaughn. It was supposed to come out this March. This comes as a no surprise because we even kept saying, man, like, I don't know why they're occupying these early months in the year. They're just not happening. So they're moving it from March to August of 2021. That month is key. My eye is on August. If I am, and that may be too optimistic, but my eye is on August to see. That's going to be a real barometer with to see how things have come. But I think that may be the beginning of a real seismic turning point, I feel, if everything's on track and if things improve. The Bob's Burgers movie has been removed entirely from the calendar.
I fucking hate everyone. God damn it.
But here's the thing that I'm not understanding. If it was going to come out this year and everything, and it was, that suggests to me the film has already been made. So what's happening with the movie? Are they going to put it on Hulu?
If they were, don't you think that would have been part of the move? Maybe they would have announced. I don't know.
Do you think it was just scrapped and they're just shelving it?
I don't want that to be the case at all. I think that would be some utter bullshit.
I was they spent the money to make
looking
it.
forward to it.
Yeah.
Like
Damn.
in a big way, fucking Disney. They're just
Man.
intimidated because they know that would have easily been the best animated film of the year. They can't compete.
Yeah. I wonder what's happening with that one. That did seem a bit suspicious. But, in terms of Disney, they also have, and the insiders, the inside sources keep repeating to their contacts in the media, based on what I'm hearing. Not that I'm a part of them, but, I read their sites, and this is what they keep telling us, is they're insistent, at the very least, saying face that Black Widow is going to remain a theatrical release only. I don't think anyone thinks May, unless things go exceedingly well. I don't think anybody thinks that May date is going to happen. For me, and I've said this for months now, I think perhaps they're looking at Raya and the Last Dragon, which we'll talk about. And here's the thing. I don't know if we've ever discussed... So Raya the Last Dragon is the next Disney animated movie. It's supposed to be released on March 5th in theaters as well as Disney Plus, but if you pay for it, which is their premium access, recall what they did with Mulan. Also recall the kind of disaster that was, right? So they're trying the premiere access again, but I don't remember. I think we all had agreed the price point was just a bit too high. I don't know if they're going to charge $30 again or if they're going to charge $25 or $20 again. Have they said?
No, which leads me to believe that is again $30.
Okay, so I don't see how they expect a different result if that's the case then, because
maybe they think different. Mulan was the issue last time, not the price point. The film, of course, absolutely had something to do with it, but $30 is kind of a bit much.
I feel the consensus was pretty unanimous, not just from our panel, but from most outlets out there, that the takeaway from that disaster was the price point was just too high. And that's the primary reason for why it didn't ultimately succeed the way that it could have if it was even lower or half of that. But it's also like Soul did really well, which we'll get to in a minute, but that was not a premium access. And I don't know. I don't know how well it would have done if it were a premium access. So that is giving me pause, because at the moment, I do think they're going to try, when May comes around, they're going to try and we can't delay it anymore. It'll still be in theaters, but it'll be available on Disney Plus for premium access. Black Widow is the kind of movie where perhaps people are going to like, oh, fine, I'm invested in the Marvel Universe, whatever. Okay, maybe then. And maybe they're using Raya as another guinea pig to see if people will bite this time for the premium access thing before they do it with, before they pull the plug with Black Widow.
I think they'll try really hard not to, just because it's Black Widow and, you know, first female Avenger, and I think they would suspect there would be some backlash if they were to send that shit straight to, just straight to anywhere, just skipping the theaters.
Well, isn't it ironic how all the movies that were, most of the movies, the high profile films that Disney has sent to their streaming service, all had leads of color? We're talking about Mulan.
Yup.
We're talking about Soul. We're talking about Raya. That's a pretty unfortunate coincidence, isn't it?
Very much so. So I think it's more of a PR move than anything, trying to get Black Widow into the movie theaters. Plus, also, it's a Marvel movie. And I do think in their mind that shit can hit $1 billion. Easy. Which I for sure now it can. Fuck yeah. So yeah.
They'll
push it off.
It also should be stated, as I also pointed this out when they had their earnings call late last year. I believe Raya and the Last Dragon is so far the only one of their movies that they've so far officially announced is a premium access.
Mm-hmm.
The rest, they all went out of their way to say exclusive theatrical run. So that is what gives me a little bit of an indication that they're really going to test the waters again. But I don't know. I don't know how the result will be any different, which is unfortunate because I'm just going to go out on a limb here and say that Raya will be a much better movie than Mulan was. But yeah. there also is another quagmire here: is how much can you delay Black Widow? And if we recall, we have the calendar has 4 Marvel movies this year, and we're not counting the Disney Plus TV shows because they're TV shows, but the movies, they're supposed to be Black Widow, Shang-Chi, Eternals, and Spider-Man 3 are all supposed to come out this year. And if you push Black Widow, don't you then have to push those other 3 as well?
Yeah. Or they can push some other film out of its spot. I don't know.
Jungle Cruise with Dwayne Johnson, which is supposed to be a big summer movie, was also is scheduled to come out this year, as well as Luca, the Pixar animated movie. So, yeah, I guess we're going to have to wait and see how all this goes, right? They also were able to... Well, you know what? I'll get this stuff out of the way with now. So Soul did very well. According to Nielsen has their streaming analytics data. And Soul, and just keep in mind, of course, the numbers have been updated, but let me just read this as it is, and then I'll give you the update, right? So Disney Soul tops the streaming charts. Nielsen revealed that for the first week of Christmas Day, Soul was the most watched streaming content on all the services except HBO Max. So when they added in HBO Max to see for that week, to see how Wonder Woman performed, it found that Wonder Woman 1984 ended up beating Soul and was the number 1 streamed film by a good margin of 35%. So, and as far as what good that's done for HBO Max, well, it turns out that they've gained about 4 million subscribers since Wonder Woman made its debut on the service. They went from 12 million to 17.2 million subscribers. And of course, to make sure people are aware, we're talking about the States because currently this service is only available in the States. And I also have some numbers here to compare about how that sizes up to other streamers. So Disney Plus, again, they're available globally, but they do not reveal the particular regions and how many subscribers that accounts for. So globally, Disney Plus has 86.8 million subscribers. And then with Netflix, they have 73 million subscribers in the United States. And overall, it's 200 million worldwide. So just to give people some stats as to how HBO Max is doing ever since they, dropped Wonder Woman, and also since the month has expired, Wonder Woman is also no longer on the service. It still is in theaters. And the last number that I have here was that it grossed about $150 million globally, not domestically, just in case that was a question. But here's an interesting wrinkle. It made less money in the States, probably because of HBO Max. Let's be clear about that. But it made less money than The Croods 2, which was out for about the same period of time. And that movie also had some PVOD options available. For example, if you wanted to purchase it on iTunes, it was definitely there for, I think, a lower streaming price point. So there's that. Peter, any reading on these numbers so far about how about these performances?
No, I think they're pretty on the mark.
Yeah,
I think it's obvious that Wonder Woman would do the best because it's a big superhero IP. I think it's obvious that they wouldn't do that great, at least in the States, in the movie theater, and they wouldn't do that great overall. Even though, considering, I think what Wonder Woman did fairly well. Yeah, the only thing to only really say with HBO Max is if they really want to grow their numbers, they got to expand beyond the colonies.
Remind me, did Tenet make $350 million? Was that its final gross worldwide, or was it $250? I think it was $350, right?
I think it was $350, yeah.
Okay, so that also is another particular point of comparison from the same studio. Again, HBO Max only available in the States, but I find it interesting that Wonder Woman only amount at the moment $150 million. That's $200 million less than Christopher Nolan's Tenet movie in the global markets. Do you think pirating played a role in this? Perhaps,
possibly,
or is it an indication that COVID is hitting stronger in other markets now than it was during the late summer, early fall?
That is true. It did hit harder at that time. It was worse off than when what's it called came out.
Tenet,
and then also around the time of Tenet, there was this real stupid air. Just everyone, this era of, well, this thing's basically over. Do you remember that? It was really weird. It's like, okay, well, we need to start to open up now.
Yeah. Of course I remember. I lived it. We were screaming at each other for we covered this shit.
And it was. I was like, am I crazy? They really and it wasn't just one person or one area, but in the news, politicians, everywhere, people are just like, oh, just this kind of well, we're kind of tired of this now, so
Trump was saying it's time to bring back football. Nolan was saying it's time to bring back the theaters. It was
this idea of if we just sort of mentally say it's over now, then it'll be over. And then, of course, it hit worse than ever after that, because no shit. So I think that might have influenced some people's decisions to go to a movie theater. You know what I mean? At the time, to go see Tenet. Also, because it's this idea of well, movie theaters are opening back. Maybe it's normal now. Let's go see. And then also, it opened Christmas, not open, but it was released Christmas, Wonder Woman. And sure, what you usually do on Christmas in years past is, families together, maybe go see a movie, whatever. But one, not as many people are together with family as in past years, and two, they could just watch it on the TV together instead of getting the whole family outside with the whole ordeal, you know? So that's probably could have added to it as well.
Yeah, that's all really interesting. So this also brings into larger discussion with HBO Max its decision to release its 16 or 17 movies on the streaming service. They Little Things, I believe, the Denzel Washington produced movie with Jared Leto and Riz Ahmed, I believe, is currently on HBO Max right now.
I saw it.
Did you? How was it?
I guess I could have mentioned that in the things I saw.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was... It didn't make an impression, I believe, then?
Oh, yeah, it was a movie. I a lot of people are kind of weird on the ending, but it felt like the ending was the thing that was actually going for something, and I was like, oh, okay.
What was... Okay. Is it the Fred Hampton movie, the Kaluuya, Daniel Kaluuya, is that also on HBO Max? I believe I just watched
Judas and the Black Messiah.
Yes, that movie. Yeah, I think
it will be like next week.
Okay, so
I think the 13th. They said maybe.
Yeah, but that's also one of the. It was one of the movies that's included in that deal, along with Little Things and Wonder Woman. And we have an update as far as Legendary. You know, they were threatening to sue Warner Brothers for not giving them the heads up that they were going to pull Godzilla vs. Kong for this deal. And of course, we talked about how 75% of the movie was basically financed by Legendary, so they were really pissed off. But it turns out all is good, and they've made up, and not only did they agree to basically come to Warner Brothers' point of view, but they also moved up the movie. Interestingly enough, they moved it up twice. It was supposed to come out the 25th, but then other conflicting schedules arrived, so they moved it to the 31st now, March 31st, Godzilla vs. Kong. There was a trailer, and everybody lost their minds. So, Peter, if you want to talk about that trailer. Also, the decision and everything.
Yeah. I think, and again, this is more business stuff that we're just going, but it's important. I'm pretty sure Legendary and Warner Brothers are two separate companies, but I think they're owned by one parent company.
I'm not aware of that, but if you're saying it, perhaps that is the case. If they're both
I'm not
owned,
sure.
But if they're both,
felt like maybe
Warner Brothers is owned by Warner Media, which was the merger of AT&T and Time Warner. So it could be AT&T's the big boss here of Legendary and Warner Brothers.
I think so. For whatever reason, they have a connection there as far as their relationship. So of course they were gonna kiss and make up somehow. But I'm really glad they did. I really like Legendary. They make all the kaiju films. They're making Dune. Like any big monster, it seems they're in on it, and I'm there. So I'm really glad they made up.
Dune, by the way, has not yet been settled, from what I remember. They're still hashing the details out on that one.
You know why? There's probably a fuck ton of, because there's a lot of stars, so there's probably a shit ton of money, like back end deals, written into their contracts that they were negotiating over. And then also, Dune was supposed to be their pitch for a massive franchise, so Legendary is probably like, pay the fuck up big time. So yeah, we'll see. I'm not holding my breath for Dune. And also, I kind of just want to see it in a movie theater as well. When I saw this Kong trailer, I was like, fuck, I wish I could see this in the theater. It was made to be seen in the theater, but it's not the way things work out. Speaking of big though, before I even get into the trailer, we'll talk about the reaction to the trailer. It did do numbers. I think the numbers for the trailer were larger than the Dune one, than the Suicide Squad one. They were bigger than the Batman. Remember the Batman trailer?
Mm-hmm. It
Godzilla
seems like a
versus
lifetime
Kong's-
ago at this point, but I remember that trailer. It was great, and everyone talked about it, but you're correct.
But
when you-
everyone, it was Batman, right? Like
Uh-huh.
the new Batman, people losing their mind. But this trailer did more as far as numbers. So it's like there does seem to be some hype around the film.
I have some suspicions as to why that's the case. Do you have some as well? Because let's be clear about this, right?
Mhm.
The general public seemingly has no awareness that this movie is another installment in a long-standing series of movies for several years now, with Kong Skull Island, Godzilla King of the Monsters. And we talked about how Godzilla King of the Monsters was a massive flop at the box office. And
Yes.
no one really saw the movie. It was reviewed really well, I believe by most critics, but it just made no impact whatsoever. So why is it then that this trailer is causing such a ruckus? Part of me suspects, well, it really came out at a time when nothing's being released of that magnitude, that scale, especially a big trailer like that. It had been some months. I think part of that plays into it. The other part is it's Godzilla and it's Kong in the same movie, and they're beating the crap out of each other. I mean, I guess that really that's the movie, and if that's what the movie is, I think people are going to love it.
Yeah, it's one of those things where the title can sell the film itself to a certain extent, right? Like Kong versus Godzilla. All right. Even if you don't, I've never seen any of the new Godzilla or Kong films. Just the notion of these two, historic characters punching each other is enough to get people to go, okay, yeah.
I mean, it's
sure.
It's kind of like a similar effect, like when they announced and then the trailers dropped for Batman v Superman. That was a cinematic event because it was like the two most popular comic book characters in the same movie together.
Oh yeah, but I guess it's a little different, I think, for Godzilla versus Kong, because the whole point is that these things fight, right? Like,
yeah.
big monsters that fight. Whereas historically, Superman and Batman are friends,
Right.
And it's like it's a little thing like, okay, yeah, they'll fight, but we know they'll.
Well,
they'll
you
team
know
up.
more
And-
about this than I do in the kaiju history, the cinematic history. Is this the first time Kong and Godzilla are in the same movie? Is this the first time they fight?
No.
Okay.
In Godzilla's third film, because it was the original Godzilla, and then Godzilla raids again, and then I believe the third film in which he came out was King Kong versus, and that was the other one. King Kong was first built. King Kong versus Godzilla.
Oh, okay.
And it was made by Toho, and Toho's the company, of course, that from Japan that makes all the Godzilla films. So
What year was that?
I don't know.
Decade?
1960s.
Okay.
I think it was the first Godzilla film in color,
Wow.
because the first one was black and white, so was the second, and then it was the first one in color as well. So yeah, I mean, I think it's worth it just to see the fights in that film because they're hilarious. But that one also had a definitive winner.
Oh, really?
It was Kong.
Wow.
At the time, Kong was a bigger star than Godzilla.
Mm-hmm.
So even though it was a Japanese production, Toho, they're the ones that owned Godzilla. King Kong ended up winning. And I think RKO Pictures owned him at the time. They might have stipulated in the contract, like, hey, he's got to win. It's kind of bullshit how he wins, but yeah, see it and it's funny. But that was it. That's the only time they've been in a film together since then. But that's why some people speculate that it's kind of the reverse now. You see, Godzilla's obviously more well known, I think, around the world than
there hasn't been
even Kong.
Yeah, because okay, so Kong Skull Island was released a few years ago. I don't know if it was the name, but that was a King Kong movie.
Yes.
Okay. And then there was the Peter Jackson movie. I believe it was around 2005-ish.
2005, yes.
Yeah, and I remember that being a big hit, right?
It was. I watched it right in the front of that movie theater. Loved every second. There was a 1970s remake, I believe. And then like a sequel to that remake. I know there is one. I don't know if Toho made this one. There's one Godzilla film, not Godzilla, Kong film where there's a Mecha Kong. Where it's a big robot monkey.
Right.
Yes. The idea, these people are bursting with imagination, obviously. So yeah, but no, never since that original match between them in the 1960s have they faced each other. But the belief is now the reverse is going to happen, because now Godzilla's the more famous one, and you see it's called Godzilla instead of King Kong versus Godzilla. It's Godzilla versus Kong. Instead of being made by Toho, it's made by an American, what's it called? Movie makers. And they think now instead of Kong winning definitively, Godzilla will win definitively.
It's interesting because that trailer, based on the images that I've seen, it seemed like King Kong was getting the upper hand.
Oh, yeah. No, it was a very Kong-centric. Every hit was a hit by
Kong.
Kong. That trailer was great. It was a great trailer, and it really emphasized the event match of it.
Yeah.
Like this is, the greatest boxing match in the history of the world. They're doing some very interesting stuff. They're embracing the goofiness of the whole premise. Kong's got a big ol' axe.
Wow. Yeah, I saw that.
He has an axe created from the spine of Godzilla, or at least a Godzilla creature. No, it looks great. It looks, honestly, I got so excited. I wouldn't shut up about how excited I was when I saw the trailer. It's everything I want.
Yeah. As I mentioned before, I'm not really that big into kaiju movies, but I know for sure, look, Lord knows we need it, so we're going to be able to we're going to have to arrange a private screening for both you, me, and Kyle.
Julio wanted it.
Yeah, and Julio, whoever. I mean, as long as you're distance or whatever, we're not going to invite the whole damn town, but like, just you have your projector, you have your speakers, so let's fucking do it. And it'll be different actually watching a good movie this time than it was with Mulan.
At the very least, a fun film.
I know. And the sad thing is we were at least hoping Mulan would be fun too, but it was a snooze.
It really, God. Did you see that video I shared?
I did not, but Sideways, I know who the YouTuber is.
He's really good.
Yes, he's really. I don't necessarily agree with all of the things that he says, but
no.
He has great a breakdown, at least from his point of view, and explaining his reasons. But my favorite one was when he completely decimated the Rise of Skywalker soundtrack, and like damn, like not even the music was good in that movie. It was the worst of any of the Star Wars movies.
Did he decimate? From what I saw, that was like his tamest. Because I've seen him decimate cats. I saw him decimate, what's the one Kyle loves?
What's the one Kyle loves? What?
French Revolution bullshit.
Les
Miserables.
Les Miserables.
Les Miserables. Oh my god, he really tore into that film. So no. But then he, like, his video on Sweeney Todd was really good. Like, yeah, no.
I like that movie. It's really good.
I love Sweeney.
It's like one of Burton's last great movies.
Was it his last one, or was it Big Fish?
Big Fish was 2004 or 2003. I think Sweeney Todd was 2007.
Okay.
And then,
so, yeah, Sweeney Todd was probably his last.
Because I want to say the next one was either Frankenweenie maybe. I think that came out in the 2000, like, later on.
Yeah, because I think that one came out after
Alice in Wonderland.
Alice in Wonderland. Alice in Wonderland, I think, was the beginning of his nosedive.
Some would even say the Planet of the Apes movie, though.
Yeah, that's true. Mm-hmm.
Which I don't remember much at all. I think I even saw that in the theater. I was like young. I wasn't even paying attention to it. I was like, "Oh God, I can't wait to get out of here." But I don't think I ever really rewatched it like in full. No one liked it. No one liked it. Yeah, but with the trailer you were talking about, Legendary in particular makes some really great trailers. I think I didn't love the movie. And I should have probably not expected to, because it was kaiju movies and I don't really seem to care for much of them. But the trailer for Godzilla King of the Monsters, I loved. Remember that from a few years ago? They had this big Comic-Con debut. It was a sensational trailer. The music, just the imagery. And again, like, I don't know why not enough is being made of the visual effects for these creatures.
The CG, maybe it's because they had more time to work on it, but I think it's really good.
Yeah.
As far as what I've seen in the film, there's weight to it. You know, that I think that's one of the difficult things with CG, is to create that illusion of weight to whatever it is you're, digital artistry up. But no, it looks good. So you didn't see the trailer, right?
Not all of it. There were snippets of it. The images of them fighting back and forth, I did see. Not the whole thing.
I was in love with it at first punch.
Love at first punch. That's a tagline right there. Someone should use that in a movie, kind of like how Jaws: The Revenge was like, this time it's personal.
Well, that's what a lot of people have noted, and it is kind of. And I think that's what makes it so fun and funny to me, is the trailer is kind of cut and image-wise like it's a Fast and Furious movie.
Really?
Like, once they start to fight, it's like this rap music, like, oh, let's go, yeah. and there's that shot of Godzilla underneath the carrier and shooting his breath upwards, and then there's like a slow-mo shot of Godzilla jumping off the carrier as like pff, and people are all like, yeah, that's a Fast and Furious shot. Like jumping off a car to like the next one or some shit.
And maybe we should do a show about this one time. This could be an idea to notch down in our notebook, but like, talking about some great trailers to some movies that ended up being not so great. Like, remember one of the ones that we all loved and went crazy about was the first, or was it the second trailer for Suicide Squad? The one that they employed Bohemian Rhapsody, I think.
Yeah. It's really, honestly, I'm someone that, I don't think you are, but I definitely am. I love trailers. To me, trailers are little nuggets of art, and I can spend all day watching trailers. And it is interesting to go back and see some trailers, and it's like, I like this movie as it exists in this little trailer. Yeah. I wish all I knew of this movie was this little trailer. Because in this form, it works so well. And I love this little mini movie, bite-sized piece of art. And yeah, like going back, looking at the Suicide Squad trailer, it's great because you just sort of like free your mind of the movie, or you try to, and just like imagine watching this just as it is, and it's like, wow, this is great.
Remember how good the BVS trailers were?
They were good. But even in those trailers, I remember going like...
Well, remember when they revealed, what's his name? The big ugly CGI thing that killed Superman.
That was the one that really killed it, where it's just like, okay.
People were like, what? Why is he in this movie? And if he's in this movie, does that not mean then... And then it ended up meaning that, yeah.
Well, with that trailer, at the very end, they've already teamed up.
Oh, yeah.
Because they even have the joke, like, is she with you? I thought it was with you.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, so the V doesn't mean much. But I'll save it for Justice League when it comes out. It's rated R. It's for adults.
I don't like this movie at all, and its existence annoys me, but I really love the Joker trailer.
Yes, that's another one. That was a really good trailer. I remember watching that and I'm like, okay, I'm in. This is good. This is really good. I don't care for the movie, but I adore the memes. The memes make the film so like worth it so much. They're applicable to so many scenarios. When this whole shit with like the stocks and GameStop was going down, all the Joker references, they're perfect. So funny. So yeah, it's like the Star Wars prequels. As films, I mean, I don't care at this point. Nostalgia will always leave a soft spot in my heart, obviously, but it's like the memes are worth it alone for these films in my eyes.
Yeah. Since we're on the topic of this anyway, we're talking about HBO Max, and so we just mentioned some DC movies. So the Snyder Cut, that has been previously mentioned as well, is going to be coming to HBO Max on March the 25th. And it is going to be released in the... it's going to be released in the form of in case anyone has any doubts, as I say this, yes, it is true. A 4-hour movie. And it will be rated R.
I love it. I love it so much.
They also released some marketing. They have had some posters out there. There's this hilarious poster of a film canister that's been unearthed from the ashes with the name Snyder on it. I mean, wow. Holy crap. I mean, they know their audience, I guess, but they also did unveil an image of sorts for the Joker that's also going to be in this movie for whatever reason.
Apparently, it's very different. It's very unique. It is not, he's...
For what purpose? I don't know,
like...
but this is David Ayer's and Jared Leto's Joker, right?
Yes, but he's not going to be... From what I hear, he might as well just be an entirely new Joker.
Why is the Joker in this movie?
Honestly, because I think Zack Snyder, he realized this is his last shot to work in his little DC universe, and he wants to, even if it's just little snippets, he wants to touch on all the things that he wanted to do. You know what I mean?
4 hours, man.
4 hours. I'm gonna be so disappointed if, like...
It's boring.
It's just the same movie, but slightly extended. I want him to go full edgelord.
But how can it be the same movie with all of these different players involved? That's where I'm getting so confused. It's not just the Joker, but apparently like the Darkseid character is also supposed to be in the movie.
Yeah... I don't know. I'm really excited. I'm telling you, I don't know. At the end of the day, I don't know how I'll feel about the film. And I don't even think I care. Like, whether I like it or hate it, I don't care. I just know it's going to be a good time. It's gonna be funny one way or another. Like it's sort of the feeling I got when I saw when he released the Wonder Woman picture, and it's just her with the severed heads. Like, this is so edgy, I can't even get mad. Like, this is just funny. Like,
it's not meant to be funny, though. You know?
No, it's not. But to me, that's the way I enjoy it. Like, when I saw that, I was like, wait, what? What the fuck? And I just laughed. And I found it so entertaining. And if he can do that for 4 hours, I'll enjoy it. I'll buy that for $1.
Someone, I think it was Alonzo Duraldi from Breakfast All Day, made this really wonderful point where they were talking about this, and he was like, well, I guess I have to go back and watch the Joss Whedon movie, which I don't even remember at this point, and it made me think, I don't really remember that movie at all too much either. Do you plan on revisiting it just to see for comparison's sake?
No, because I know there will be a billion YouTube videos comparing and contrasting the two. And I'm pretty sure that I just don't want to waste my time, you know?
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure those YouTube videos will do a sufficient job in comparison. Because I was wondering, like, I don't want it to just add scene or just make the same scenes longer. But then I remember there are entire scenes that what's his name added in
Joss
that
Whedon?
just aren't have nothing to do with what Zach did. Like that whole Batman opening.
Oh yeah.
I think that whole opening was him.
Yeah.
Was Joss Whedon. So that'll be gone. You know, and that's a good chunk of time. I think Joss Whedon, you know that song, that weird ass sad song in the beginning intro?
I forget, man. I don't remember what the song was.
I don't know. It's whatever the fuck it was. But yeah, that was Joss Whedon who added that in. I guess maybe he was trying to access his inner Zach. Oh, the weird Superman footage, handheld.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's a good amount of scenes I feel that'll be cut. And you got to remember the movie was only 2 hours.
Yeah.
So let's say he cuts about half an hour off. You're left with an hour and a half of the footage we've already seen. So that's what, 2.5 hours that we still haven't seen, technically, right?
Technically speaking, yes. And then I'm still not clear what new footage was shot and how much it even cost. The reports have been all over the place about that.
Only Zack Snyder could just fucking destroy their entire universe of films that was supposed to compete with the MCU and then get paid to come back and
finish the job.
Finish the job. That's another. I love it. No, but I like Zack Snyder. I do, and I've liked some of his films, especially growing up. So I'm happy that he gets to have his movie.
It's a very personal thing for him. And we also, I mean, in case anyone's forgotten, you know, the movie was just done so dirty by the studio. You know, remember that in many ways, and it's come to light based on reports that at the time the studio used the tragic, death of Zack Snyder's daughter to ask him to leave, or they already wanted him gone. That's the weird thing is, it's like when BVS came out, I think everybody felt this sense that WB lost their faith in the direction of Zack Snyder, but they still kept him on for the Justice League movie. And at the time, I guess it was planned to be a 2-part movie with that part 1 or whatever. That was the original plan anyway. And then unfortunately, Zack Snyder lost his daughter. He just wasn't, really willing to put up with it anymore. And I'm sure he got the sense that WB didn't want him around. So he just left that project entirely. And then when Joss Whedon came aboard, they had these ridiculous notions of, well, Kevin Tsujihara, who was the head at the time, mandated the film be 2 hours because the executives at the company needed their paychecks or their bonuses. I'm sorry. So remember, these DC movies have just been plagued by a whole bunch of executives bullshit, left and right. And then, just a series of unfortunate circumstances from any number of people. And when I watched, go ahead, David, Peter, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, to be fair, Zack very much got to make the movie he wanted with Man of Steel and BVS.
Yes.
And they didn't start to fuck with him until the response to BVS was like, this is fucking stupid. This is, So then, once Justice League came around...
Just to be clear, a big disappointment for them at that point in time was that a movie with the name Batman and Superman in the title did not hit $1 billion.
You know what? I think they have every right to be pissed off about that.
I agree.
Didn't Captain Marvel hit $1 billion?
Yeah.
Yeah, fuck that. The idea that you could make a Batman v Superman movie and it not hit $1 billion... when Iron Man 3...
Well, Captain America that year...
hitting a billion.
That summer, I believe, Captain America hit $1 billion.
Yeah. No. You had the two biggest names superheroes for pretty much as long as superheroes have been around. And you couldn't hit $1 billion? That's bad.
Aquaman made $1 billion.
But again, to be fair to Zack, I guarantee you he was very honest with the film he wanted to make.
Yeah.
And they just, I guess they didn't listen, or they just, I don't know what they thought. Yeah.
I remember watching the Justice League movie in a theater. I think it was an AMC in La Jolla. It was a few years ago in 2017. And I remember being in that theater just knowing... I think it was a half hour to an hour in, and I was like, man, I'm gonna have a hard time remembering this as soon as I walk away.
That movie sucked, and it sucked in the most boring way. I just walking out of opening the door and walking out into the hallway, I remember just going wow, I feel nothing.
Yeah.
I'm not angry. I'm not sad. It's just hollow. Just nothing. This film was just nothing.
Yeah.
And then my second thought was, I really wish I could have seen Zack Snyder's Justice League instead.
Because at that point, you would have felt something.
I would have felt something. And I think that was one of the big things that made me rethink the way I see a lot of these films. Where it's I don't need to see my perfect version of whatever I just make me feel anything. Just because with BVS, I don't like that movie. I think it's very bad. But there's been endless amount of interesting discussion surrounding that film.
Yeah.
And boy, did it make me feel things. Kind of, it was an experience, and that's what films should be.
You left a lasting impression on everyone on this panel. One of your first really big moments on this podcast was an episode called Holy Rusted Metal Batman. We were doing the BVS review, and you went off on everyone because of Batman killing people in that movie.
I had a lot of feelings.
Yeah.
I know, again, talk about memorable. I remember sitting in the theater going ooh, that's kind of far for Batman. Okay, well, maybe he could be alive. And then the next scene, literally 2 seconds later, he fucking in the Batmobile pulls up machine guns and obliterates a car until it is just ash, and then the car drives through it and explodes into a fiery ball of nothing. And I just remember going like, okay. Okay.
When I see that scene, not that I watch the movie in clips on YouTube or something, but when that comes up, I have to laugh every single time because I'm just reminded of what a big fuck you that is to you. It's hilarious to me. It's also, you're not exaggerating when you say obliterated that. It was literally nothing but ash.
It was nothing left. There was literally nothing left. That's what's crazy. It was like Looney Tunes physics. But at this point, like, that's exactly what I want. I want Batman to slit someone's throat in this Justice League movie. I want the blood to spurt out onto the screen, and I'm gonna clap and stand up and cheer. Bravo, Zach. That's what I want.
I just want to be entertained. I'm not even asking for anything good. I just want to be entertained.
No. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Let me get over some of these final items, and then we'll go to our review here. So there was a trailer for the upcoming Disney animated movie Raya and the Last Dragon, and this was, at least to me, highly uncharacteristic, based on the recent revival era of Disney movies, based on some of the story elements that were revealed to it. Overall, I was very impressed with the quality of the animation, and I really do lament not being able to watch this on a big screen because it just looks so beautiful. I love and appreciate very much that this is a female-led film, but definitely an action-adventure epic, maybe like in the vein of Mulan, perhaps, and not a retread of the tried and true Disney princess movie formula. And above all else, I'm happy for Kelly Marie Tran. So there's that. Peter?
Dito. We talked about this a little bit. The trailer, it's weird. It's a weird movie. I don't know if I'll personally like the film, but I dig that it's weird. I told you it felt like a combination of a DreamWorks film and Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Yeah, that's what I meant by uncharacteristic. That baby element in particular felt like out of a DreamWorks movie.
Yeah, and at first I thought it was going to be a small sight gag, but then she's like, "Come with me on my adventure, baby." And it's like, where's its fucking mother? Like, what? Okay, I guess. Like, just kind of like this absurdist humor of, it's a baby. It's with us now. It can do anything it wants. It's fucking Grogu. But then there'll also be these serious elements of, like, you know, the 6 tribes, and, you know, it's like beautiful animation and these sweeping vistas and action. But then they throw in fucking Mushu type situation. And the humor too, again, very DreamWorks. So I don't really know what to expect. I'm very intrigued.
And I think to clarify, while some would say that, calling it DreamWorks level would be kind of an insult, not necessarily in this case. I think DreamWorks is that just because something feels DreamWorks-ish doesn't mean that it's bad.
No, I mean, I love The Emperor's New Groove,
and that's the Disney movie.
Yeah, but it's not. It's not like any other Disney movie. It doesn't feel like a Disney movie at all. It feels like they purchased a film from DreamWorks, Disney, and then they just released it under their banner. So yeah, I'm intrigued. I'll definitely watch it. Will I pay $30? No.
Someone on the panel will.
Someone will.
It's the one with red hair.
Yeah. I'm all about woman first.
Okay. Ryan Coogler has signed a 5-year deal with Disney, developing a series of shows amongst, including, of course, a Wakanda television show for the streaming service.
Make that money. The Wakanda show makes sense.
Yeah.
Like when they announced it, I was like, yeah, okay. Again, to be excited, I don't know, you know. But if you're gonna make a show, yeah, I can see that.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I hope they spend money on Wakanda to, visually anyway. But yeah, good. I really like Ryan Coogler. I think he's great. So
all the best to him. Mads Mikkelsen says that Hannibal revival talks are happening at Netflix.
They fucking better be. No, that's a show that was probably ahead of its time. I really believe that. It just hit a little bit too early. It was on network TV. It was before the streamers really blew up. And it just didn't have its audience. But now, I think once they dropped it on Netflix, people really found it. And they really, really, I think they really loved it. Which, of course, sparked the revival talks. And I'm all about it. Bring it back.
That would be just
That's a great show.
It'll just be a great story. Of these shows getting a second wind, especially when their first iteration was not so, well appreciated. And this would just be the absolute best sense of vindication for the show. Cloverfield. So remember that movie from J.J. Abrams? The first Cloverfield? Apparently a direct sequel is being developed, for HBO Max. I believe it's in the form of a television series, not a movie. And it's going to be from the showrunner of the upcoming Gotham PD show on the same service.
This is weird to me. Just because, do you remember when Cloverfield first came out? In the movie theaters? I'll take that as
I know what year. I think the year was What are you asking? What year it came out?
No, I mean, do you remember when it came out?
No.
Okay, I did. Again, maybe because I love big monster movies. Who knows? But like all things J.J. Abrams, what really sold that movie was the marketing. They never explained what was going on. All the trailers, all the posters. It was even the name Cloverfield. What the fuck does Cloverfield mean? And it was this big mystery, and people are like, "What is Cloverfield? What is this movie?" It's kind of similar to The Matrix. Like they didn't really explain what the fuck The Matrix was in the for the advertisement in the first film, and it was until you saw the film that you're like, "Oh my god, The Matrix," And that's the way it was with Cloverfield. And then it's like, "Oh fuck, it's this sort of found footage kaiju film." And I actually really like Cloverfield. It's exactly what it sounds like, a found footage kaiju film. And it has all the strengths and weaknesses of a found footage film and all the strengths and weaknesses of a kaiju film. And I remember watching some behind the scenes shit when it came out on DVD. And I think J.J. Abrams talked about how he went to Japan and how Godzilla was just everywhere. And he's like, all these years later, this character is deep within the consciousness of this country. And he's like, well, he wanted to do an American version. No, I guess no one told him King Kong existed. But he was like, he wanted to do an American monster movie in that vein. So Cloverfield. And yeah, I like the film, but if we're being honest, what made the film work was that sort of nicheness to it. The fact that It was a big mystery as to what the film even was about leading up to it. The fact that it turned out to be a found footage monster film, you know, that unique format. You throw away literally all of that with this sequel series. It's not going to be found footage. You know, going in, it's about big monsters. But the one element that's still there is big monsters. And I am perfectly fine. I'm perfectly fine just saying, fuck it. Just make a show about big monsters. The Cloverfield monster.
We got to keep the kaiju alive somehow in cinema, right?
Yes. And honestly, I'm so much fuck it. I really do think if you want to keep Godzilla alive in any capacity beyond King Kong, just keep doing versus or team up films. You know, King Kong versus Cloverfield, and have him fight the Cloverfield monster. King Kong Pacific Rim, you know.
Get weird with it.
Yes.
That would be a breath of fresh air.
By the way,
you know?
Del Toro literally came out and said, I would love for that to happen.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he's like, he said, I wouldn't be involved with it, but I would love to see it. And I would too, like, because you got the properties, just fucking do it. Have Godzilla fight all these things. So that's the reason why I like the show, is because that's kind of where I hope they go with it. Just fuck it, just do it. Big monsters everywhere. Yeah.
Yeah, based on what you described, Cloverfield doesn't sound like the kind of property where it lends itself into a sequel story all that much so. I mean, if any story does, but I mean, there were 2 sequels, not really sequels, but they had the name Cloverfield in it. It was 17 Lane and Paradox, both with varying degrees of, reviews, but they were both very different stories.
10 Cloverfield Lane is also a really good film. It's a fantastic film. So.
And Paradox?
It is there.
It's there.
You know what? They chose the wrong film to put the Cloverfield name on. They should have. What's it? Remember the zombie war movie? Fuck, what was it called?
World War Z?
No. Overlord.
Oh, with the one that had Ian DeCastiger in it.
Overlord was great. And at one point, they were like thinking of,
that was also a J.J. Abrams produced project, right? That was
at one point they had thought like, oh, we'll turn this film into a Cloverfield move. Just slap the Cloverfield name on top. And that's the film they should have done it with, because that was a really good, again, science fiction action film that just got no love. But I think if you would have slapped the Cloverfield name on it, it would have got the love, and then it would have been a good film, and it would have, mutual
I
success.
forgot that movie existed until like you brought that up, and it's like, well, yeah, that was a really good movie. What happened?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, people just.
In the before times, what would happen is good films would be released and no one would watch it.
Yeah. Yeah. Last thing here, and then we'll move on to the movie review. Harry Potter. Harry Potter TV series is in development for HBO Max, and supposed to be coming out, I think, sometime next year. If that's the case, I have no details as to like when exactly this like takes place, but I think it's interesting to me and to you from this perspective. We're not Potterheads. We're not really invested in this universe. I enjoy the movies depending on which one it is, but overall we've never really been overly invested. The Potterheads of the group are Alexis Moreno and Kyle Lira. They can definitely speak more to this, but I think it's pretty obvious from all directions in what a complete state of disarray this franchise is. That last movie did so much damage to, I think they're only doing one more Fantastic Beasts movie, if that. They are filming, I think, but I don't think they're doing the 5 movie plan like they had originally boasted. And then even more damage is the incessant and honestly just stupid from a all like PR standpoint. Just the insistence of J.K. Rowling's transphobia and then she's even, I think, unleashed a campaign where she's trying like her friends are also keeping the story alive in the trades, just like saying, oh well, I support her, yeah, she's not transphobic or anything. So like it is just a fucking disaster. And then the Johnny Depp news that happened with like he had to quit the role because allegations.
It's unfortunate, but like the whole situation's just become toxic. To the
Ezra Miller too. He's also in
I
that
don't even
movie.
know what the fuck's going on with Ezra Miller. Doing drugs? I don't know. But
Well, remember whatever. Go
I'll
ahead.
just say what should have been obvious from the beginning. The Harry Potter show that they should have made is Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. They should have never been a movie series. Those characters were perfectly suited for a TV show where, week to week, they're getting into shenanigans with wild, magical creatures, and it's light and it's fun. And maybe, you have a villain that's like a fucking magical hunter, that wants to kill the animals, and because he's a hunter, he's a dick. He's like, those like fucking rich, super rich dentists that go to Africa and then shoot a lion and then take a picture with it. Like just one of those assholes, but magical.
Yeah.
And they got to deal with that, saving, preserving. Perfect. Like, perfect, fun Harry Potter show. Everyone would have a blast. And then, of course, you have little Easter eggs and shit and da-da-da-da. But no, they decided to turn it into a movie series and then have the whole wizarding war at the time overshadow everything and basically turn it into a Dumbledore versus that other fucker thing.
Grindelwald, right? With the Johnny
Grindelwald,
Depp character.
yeah.
They had basically two ideas for two separate shows or movies, whatever have you, and they stuffed it all into one, basically is what happened. And then the Grindelwald Dumbledore war stuff really overtook everything to where it never really fit all together. I still haven't seen that second movie. I'm sure Alexis and Kyle have, and they said it was terrible.
Yeah,
Everyone
Kyle
says
said
it was
it
terrible.
sucked.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, that says something.
And I mean, I enjoyed the first Fantastic Beasts,
Yeah.
but it had some of the similar issues that really weren't all too surprising that they were kind of made much worse in the sequel. But like even that idea, Peter, like, okay, and if that could also be an interesting television show, the Wizarding War.
Yeah, but now they've covered both in the film. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So they're off the table.
But here's the bigger problem. Ultimately, is this show going to feature J.K. Rowling as a executive producer? Is she going to be the controlling
She
creative
is not
interest?
going to be involved at all. She's not going to write it. She's not going. Maybe she'll produce it or just have her name on it because they have to. But I guarantee you, they're going to distance themselves from her like fucking crazy.
Has that been confirmed, though? Are we sure about that? Because
We are
they've
not.
been hesitant to push her at arm's length for anything. Like, she's still employed. She's still, if I'm not mistaken, did she not write the screenplay for the movie they're shooting right now? The
Yes,
Fantastic Beasts
but that
3?
was written a long time ago.
Right.
A lot has changed.
No, I know a lot has changed, but it's like, I mean, she's a very problematic and honestly unfortunate presence now in pop culture where she is really causing such harm to the trans community with her need.
So sad. Because you
It really
know
is.
for a fact, so many, especially within our generation, young trans people probably felt so, like, loved those books and felt so connected to
Yeah.
them in their world. And then she just comes out and is like, get those men away from me. Transphobia.
But that's the thing, though, is I agree with what you said, but I because if they dare put her name on the TV show they're doing, that's not going to go over well.
They're not. I honestly, I don't think they're going to do it. They're not going to have her near it.
How could they?
I'm telling you. I'm willing to put money on it. They're not. They're not.
But everything we know about J.K. Rowling is, especially if this involves, for whatever reason, the original cast, she's always been insistent, and WB has always let her be involved in everything, like super duper involved, to the point where she controls.
You know what?
Everything.
Maybe WB should learn how to put their fucking foot down, because they let some of their talent run wild, and it seems to always bite them in the ass.
Speaking of, the last thing I actually had here was that Christopher Nolan is reportedly walking away from the studio altogether after that HBO Max. Perfect segue.
Which is very fucking rich, because he was not involved in that situation at all. That HBO Max shit.
It didn't involve his movie.
They bent over backwards to release that film for him. In theaters.
They rolled up the red carpet.
I don't know what kind of guy Christopher Nolan is, but just he's not wrong when it comes to how other directors were treated and other artists were treated when it comes to this whole HBO Max shit. It really is bullshit that they weren't even consulted or anything.
Right.
They just did it. That's not right. But I don't think he gets to be mad about it.
Right. It's like Ted Cruz being mad at people who incite an insurrection.
Yeah. You kind of don't get to be mad. He fought long and hard. Like, it wasn't just push the movie back. If he had fought to push the movie back, I'd be on his side, right? But no, he fought to release it now because he was gonna, they had some stupid notion of saving cinema. And never once, confronting the fact like, hey, fuckhead, pandemic. Human lives are far more important than movies or cinema or anything else, really, that you could be doing at a movie theater. So.
Yeah, not only did it hurt cinema more than it helped it, but Nolan needlessly risked the lives of his own fans, and I find that really unforgivable at the end of the day.
Yeah.
All for a movie. Okay, that concludes the news. Let's go ahead and get to our review. Peter, if you could pull up the movie on Letterboxd, which is, of course, our sponsor. Kidding, not the official sponsor. But Boys State, which is a documentary by A24, which is a studio, of course, that Peter is a big, big fan of. This was dropped, I think, back in November. I believe Peter watched this in December, and here we are in February, finally talking about this movie. We were supposed to, I think, get this out for election month, but let's be real, things happen.
A lot of things happened.
Yeah.
Boys State, directed by two people. Democracy isn't a spectator sport. In an unusual experiment, 1,000 17-year-old boys from Texas joined together to build a representative government from the ground up. This is my thing. I go out of my way, and this is where you're the asshole. I go out of my way. When I have you watch stuff, I'm like, I'm going to watch something that he's going to enjoy, that he's going to have a good time watching. And you feel the need to make me watch stuff that you know is just going to piss me off.
Name a couple of titles that's happened with.
Fahrenheit 11/9.
Okay. By the way, that's a great To the Table if you want to listen to it. It's on the feed. But I mean, like, I want to talk about them with you because, and the reason why I recommend these movies to you is because I know that you're going to understand the same kind of feelings that I'm feeling. No one else in the group really understands this more than you do.
You want
or
to
can.
you want to inflict pain, so you have someone that understands that pain. You're a monster. Suffice to say, fuck them kids. I was just pissed off the whole time.
Me too.
I just hated them. I hated them all. Even the ones that they were trying to make you sympathetic towards, I felt, no, fuck them. Fuck all of them. I hate them. This is a testament to the downfall of the human race. Like, oh my God.
Wow, that's a great opening salvo for a movie review. This is a testament to the downfall of the human race. Wow. Wow. So, just a background information for people who are really not aware at all what this is. And I imagine most people are not aware what this is. I have to imagine that you, Peter, were not aware that this was a thing before you watched this movie.
No.
So this is a program that is sponsored by the American Legion of the United States. So in all
the American Legion of the Americans.
Yeah. In all 50 states. So this particular film takes place in Texas. I want to say in 2018 is when it was filmed. That was the year, or maybe it was even, I think it was 2018. I think it was when Beto was running in Texas anyway. But this is a program that is in all 50 states. And it does, as the description explains, it is to bring together a group of 17-year-old junior high school boys to form a representative government, which is pretty much the clean way of saying it, because in no way, shape, or form does it actually really it goes about as well as you can expect a group of 17-year-old boys. They also do have girls' state, as a matter of fact, as a counterpart.
They even make a joke where one of the kids is like, well, we should have one where it's both boys and girls called People State. And then they're like, LOL, JK, just memes.
Yeah.
It's not as if our government is run by both men and... Okay, no, never mind. All right, whatever.
Yeah. Part of the... pain that one would endure about watching this movie is just being reminded about how annoying high school could be, or people around high school anyway.
A part of me felt like maybe it's that, because obviously it's teenage boys. Teenage boys are horrible, and I feel like I can say that because I was one once, and I can be like, yeah, it was probably horrible. It's growing pains, Hopefully, I'm a much better person today than I was then, but of course you should be, because I don't know if anyone is great as a teenager, except like few exceptional people, I guess. Mm-hmm. But it wasn't that. It was just how vapid and full of shit all of them were. Every single, and I know a lot of them are like, well, I like this kid. They were all full of shit. Every single one of them.
Yeah.
And it's their standard politician, like, I care about the people and it's a service. They give all the standard, well, I come from a military family and da 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 da, and everything. They know how to play the game. They might be 17, but they know exactly what they have to say, and they're kind of all puppets, but they're puppets to each other. It's like two fake things trying to outfake each other times 1,000. I don't think any of them genuinely believe in the bullshit that comes out of their mouth at any one time, and because you listen to the debates, and it's just like so much bullshit, flowery bullshit in which they're absolutely saying nothing. They do all the hits about freedom and individual rights and liberties and you know, the right to bear arms and abortion. Again, God forbid women be a part of that discussion.
And they weren't in that movie.
Of course, no, hell no. It's Texas. Come on now. But I hated it. I hate it.
So just to be clear, you hated watching this movie, or you hate this film?
My hate was so high watching it, it might have just bled over to just hating the film.
Okay. I mean, that's fair. That's fair.
It's just I'm out of charitability, you know what I mean?
Charitable moments, perhaps?
No, I'm out of it, and I've been out of it for a while. Like to me, this film was disgusting. I hated it. This isn't a celebration. You took 1,000 kids and taught them how to be vapid, soulless, power hungry driven maniacs, and think that these are good lessons to impart. Go fuck yourself.
Wow. I mean, I can't say I disagree much, if anything. I think you're right on the money for the most part. There are some particular moments I want to mention, but overall, I should, full disclosure, I was part of a program like this in the California version. I was actually part of the
set. You?
Well, let me finish my story, Mr. Martinez. That way we can, provide full clarity to your statement. I was part of the 75th Boys State in California back in 2012. 8-9 years ago, 8-ish years ago, if you can believe that. But yeah, we went up to Sacramento. I think it was Sacramento University, where they housed us and everything. And I experienced that bullshit up close. And you have to keep in mind, I think I learned a lot of lessons that week. At that point, was 17-year-old. I was very wide-eyed. In fact, probably like the main character, I would probably relate most to him. But keep in mind, that was a point in time where, my political naivete was, limitless. At that point, it was basically a shill on behalf of the Democratic Party, where like they could do no wrong. And yeah, I mean, at that point, there were a lot of things that I just didn't know about. And I had toyed around with the idea of like maybe even myself pursuing one of the offices. But there came a point where I realized, I didn't have the self-confidence or self-esteem to even put up a decent persona, and then two, the realization that this was all utter bullshit, just completely
bullshit.
It was all so fucking fake, and it just wasn't to me. It's a barnyard. There is no seriousness. There is no substance to me, and it just found to me
That's the thing. You're taught the illusion of substance. That's what you're teaching these kids. The entire point of the exercise is to teach them how to be a bullshitter, how to be a fake politician, to lie and bullshit your way to the top. That's all this is. Why do we celebrate
You know who ended
this?
up being governor of the boy state of Arkansas that ended up becoming president? Bill Clinton.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
No, yeah, that makes sense. And a lot of these kids in the thing, they admit it. They're like, well, that's not my actual beliefs, but you got to play the game. And it's like, really? Like, this is the lesson you want to imbue onto your, quote unquote future politicians, get fucked. Like, this is terrible. I hate it. I hate it so much. It
really makes me wonder, because like what you would have done. So as I was saying, I did not end up participating myself in the proceedings because it reeked of fakeness, and I was actually looking for a genuine, I don't know, I was looking for anything authentic. And so I was actually, busier making some connections with real people, and then just being as far away removed from the bullshit as possible, which was still overall a good time. But yeah, from afar, the whole process while I was there for my program, it just turned me off to the point where it's like, well, man, this doesn't really mean much of anything. Why bother get invested in bull crap like this? And it went about as it does in the film. In fact, it even gets worse as the movie goes along in terms of just the utter inaneness, the vapidness of it keeps getting worse and worse. Like, and even the people who are propped up with some genuine ideals, I think the main character in this, and again, 17-year-old boys. If I were 17, I could definitely see myself maybe doing this. Now, me, no. But like the main character here, like, tries to win the election and is the most sympathetic of all of them, only because he's not a complete asshole. Let's be real about that, like the rest of them are. But he goes around like making concessions and talking to people if they would vote for him. I wonder how all that played for you.
I do want to stress, my anger is not towards the kids. Yeah, it's towards this whole system, this institution thing. Yes, this is the lessons that they're imparting onto them, right? And you can tell the adults, they love it. It's this big, grand, important thing.
They eat into it. They play it up, man.
Yeah, they play it up so much, and my anger isn't towards the kids because they're kids, and that was my point earlier. Like, I thought, like, is the issue that it's like, 17-year-old boys, and it's like, no, that's not the angry part. It's the bullshit, vapid. Would you experiment? I don't know what the fuck you would call it.
It is an experiment. That's what it was labeled, I think.
Yeah. The whole system of it's just reeks of bullshit. And yes, there are more sympathetic characters, but like I said, like my anger is less at the kids and more at the adults. System and the adults that kind of make them out, that encourage and create them to be, vapid monsters? And full of shit political monsters. Like, why? Because I would assume this whole exercise is somewhat about like, oh yeah, like they even say that when the adult, like, look around you, you could be the future governor, future president. It's about creating future leaders.
On paper, this is supposed to be about teaching people about government, civics, But
what are they actually learning? What are they actually becoming?
Yeah.
Like, it just makes me think about how all the people attack, like, I don't know, fucking... like someone like Cori Bush. Like...
Representative from Missouri.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Cori Bush never did one of these. But what attracts me to her as a politician is she's seen some things, she's experienced some things, and she genuinely gives a fuck. She has political beliefs and values, and she's very clear with the change she wants to make. Mm-hmm. And then from there, it's just all about trying to make that change, trying to convince people that this is the change we need, and then get elected, and blah, 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 blah. But with this, it's just about power. And
that's all it is.
whatever the beliefs are that go along with it are just secondary. Like, who gives a fuck? But it's about training kids to worship power. Why would you want kids that only care about power to be our future leaders? That sounds fucking awful.
All of this is propaganda for the power class, for the ruling class, for the donor class, for the military-industrial complex, for the the power base of Washington, D.C., and to continue that sense of vapidness going forward. And I think you're so right to point that out. And that's what made this feel kind of out of touch.
Extremely.
With these young people, like, basically trying to be Beto O'Rourke's or Ted Cruz's or Pete Buttigieg's, these fake...
I remember one kid was like, oh yeah, he reminds me of Ben Shapiro. And it was like a positive thing. And I was just like, oh my God. Oh God. Oh, where's the nuke button? We just need to start over.
Yeah, that made me cringe as well. But the thing is, though, it's so out of touch with like that kind of that class of politician, the Obamas, if you will, the Clintons, the bullshitters.
They are going out of style and quickly.
They're going extinct because you also had the comparisons. You not only mentioned Cory Bush, but here's a perfect example of what happened this week of the recording. Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez had an Instagram Live where she recounted the harrowing experience where she thought she was going to die during the insurrection at the Capitol building. She also happened to reveal in that Instagram Live that she was a survivor of sexual assault. What was so shocking about that is that was a member of Congress that was just revealing these things in a very emotionally pained state of mind, but also just being transparent and real. You don't fake that kind of quote unquote authenticity. That's something that no one in Washington can touch her on. That's why she's not a politician. She's a real person, and that's in large part why she won. That's the kind of politician that is the future of the generation we're going to usher in, not the Pete Buttigieg's, not the Kamala Harris's. We have no patience for fakeness here, and that's the problem. And all of what happened in this movie were just, as you say, Peter, is propping up that sense of bullshit, that fake personality type, and that's what matters most. That's how you win. That's how you get ahead, and that's what's being reinforced with this experiment.
If you notice, especially in the beginning when they were all going around to get signatures, a lot of it was like, again, vague bullshit nothingness. I believe in liberty. I bleed red, white, and blue. And it's like I believe a politician is about someone who works for you, the people. And all of this, but none of them were about like, I have these deep political beliefs, and I'm gonna sell you those political beliefs because I genuinely believe things will get better because of this. And it was just, tell me what you want, and then I'll
say it so I can win.
I'll say it so I can win. And I just don't like that. I hate it. I hate it so much. And again, it really is teaching them all the wrong lessons. First, I'm just very angry. That movie really just made me so angry.
Well, damn. And what also is enraging is because this is the system that's being reinforced. This is the kind of terrain that conservatives relish. And this is where they really thrive. The only arena where they can actually win. And that's what happens here. It's like when everything is bullshit, then it's not that hard.
Much easier.
It's so not that hard for conservatives to just, move the Overton window and then claim faint bullshit here and there or fake bullshit here and there. And that's how they ultimately they prevail here. It's not because they're selling people that they actually like them, but they create a fake non-story that somehow the message comes across that, oh, they're being slighted because the other people are not being fair to them, and they're successful.
And like, listen to the way all of them talk. They all talk the same way.
Yeah.
With the same cadence. Yes. Like, unironically, yes. They really come off as that snake oil salesman, mid-90s politician that believes nothing except advancing their own political career. Like, they have that, the vocabulary, the vernacular, they have it all down to a T, every single one of them, and the ways they talk. And that's why it's like an out-of-body experience, because they learned they had to act that way to bullshit their way to the top. And then everyone out, but it's not just one person, it's all of them. So they're all bullshitting each other. It's just a giant mound of bullshit. And the biggest bullshitter wins. I don't know what this is supposed to teach them besides being power hungry monsters. I really don't.
Just about tone deaf on every level. What do you think, though, from a filmmaking standpoint, was the point of this documentary? Do you have any issues in terms of the craft itself, or do you feel, because you seem to also be somewhat suggesting that perhaps the overall point of making this movie wasn't all that clear, and if the point was to just say that this is something good, then it failed completely?
I don't think they're saying it's good. If anything,
are they saying anything?
I think if the film's trying to say anything, I feel like the film's coming down closer to my feelings than anything.
That's what I got too, and
but,
I wanted to make that point clear, though.
Yeah, but like most documentaries, they try to just create this air or level of kind of non-bias, just kind of like, we're just showing you what this is, and then you take away what you will from it, that kind of thing. But I think there is an obvious slant to this is kind of fucked up, what you're saying, because even the descriptions of the film allude to like, it kind of gives you a glimpse into the bigger issues that surround this, politics as a whole in America. And I think, the fact that that's part of the description, I think makes it very clear that what they're trying to say, even if they're trying to be much more subtle, obviously, than me, that just comes out and says, fuck this. It is well made. Like, yeah, I won't deny that.
Yeah. Politics and anything concerning politics usually ends up not in the happiest of moods for you and I, because a lot of it happens to be pretty crappy and shitty. And yeah, that is perhaps an institution that requires reform, although considering that it is run by the American Legion, which in and of itself is a byproduct of the military-industrial complex, which is very hell-bent on any change whatsoever, that's hard to really see that happening anytime soon. But yeah, if you want to get pissed off, people, go and see it. It's on Apple TV Plus. It's a well-made documentary. I think it definitely captures the authenticity, and I can definitely speak to this with some truth. It's like, yeah, they really captured it exactly how it felt like, as if you were there. So on that level, I think it definitely succeeded. So hey, there's that. So yeah.
Yeah.
I think we're just about done for today. Thank you all for listening. Thank you, Peter, for being here. A reminder, you can definitely catch our recaps for WandaVision with David and I every week. We're about to wrap up our Crown recaps with Alexis Moreno. Speaking of her, she and Kyle Lira are going to be doing a short film themed month all February long on the Fantasy Fair, going back at the Sparks Shorts films on Disney Plus, as well as Pixar short movies, Disney short movies. So it's a short month, so they thought, why don't we just do a short film themed month? So that's what they have going on. And Peter and I, and perhaps even Kyle, are going to be bringing back To the Table from hiatus this month, February. That's
Yes.
right. Feel Good February. Peter, do you have the films that we'll be covering this month?
No.
Okay. I had to try. I think one of them is The Majestic, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
One of those
and
movies.
Secondhand Lion. But I don't remember the films I give Kyle.
Okay.
One of them I think is My Life is a Zucchini. I don't know.
Yes. He mentioned Dolomite is my name.
Yes. I think those are the two I gave him. Dolomite is my name, and then My Life is a Zucchini.
And then you gave me The Majestic, and then one other movie that I can't remember the name.
Secondhand Lion.
Secondhand Lion. Lion or Lion?
Lion. Like the
Lion.
animal.
Okay.
It is literally on HBO Max.
Oh, okay. Wonderful to know. And then for the audience as well. You can catch those shows anywhere you listen to podcasts: Apple, Castbox, Spotify, YouTube, every single Sunday, sometimes on Thursdays, and then other days for the other shows. And keep it right here. We got more stuff, more content under our spotlight. Stay under our spotlight, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.